I continue my unforgettable journey through Italy. After the wonderful cities in the south, I am now in the heart of the country, in Rome. This ancient city amazes the imagination with its captivating history and indescribable beauty. In this video, I invite you to stroll with me through the streets of the Eternal City, discovering its endless wonders and mysteries. On the Palatine Hill, the shepherd Faustulus found the infants Romulus and Remus, who had been suckled by a she-wolf. They grew up and learned that their true parents were the god of war Mars and the priestess Rhea Silvia. And the grandfather of Romulus and Remus was the king of the city of Alba Longa Numita, who had been overthrown from his throne by his brother. Romulus and Remus returned to Alba Longa and restored their grandfather's power. However, they did not want to live there and instead decided to found their own city. Romulus chose the Palatine Hill for the new city, while Remus preferred the neighboring Aventine. The historian Titus Livius tells that the brothers decided to divine who was right by the flight of birds. Remus saw 6 vultures over his hill, while Romulus saw 12. The twins argued fiercely, and Romulus killed Remus. Another, more well-known version says that Remus, taunting his brother, stepped over the furrow that Romulus had marked as the boundary of the city. The ending is the same. Romulus became angry and killed Remus. The legend is a legend, but in 2007, archaeologists discovered a hollow space with mosaics on the walls inside one of the slopes of the Palatine. They suggest that this may be the very Lupa grotto where the she-wolf nursed the legendary founders of Rome. In fact, the situation with the she-wolf is not so simple. The appearance of the she-wolf in the legend of the founding of Rome is the most magical element of the story, and even the ancient authors tried to find a rational explanation for it. Titus Livius writes, others think that Laurentia was called she-wolf among the shepherds because she gave herself to anyone, hence the story of the miraculous rescue. In Latin, the term she-wolf was a colloquial term for prostitutes. So there was no she-wolf, but rather the wife of a shepherd known as a harlot. This daring conjecture can be found in other ancient authors as well, and it is not just about the she-wolf, it is about the symbol of Rome. The she-wolf and Rome are inseparable. It was in Rome that prostitution reached its apogee, thriving in temples and theaters, circuses, baths, on the streets, and even in cemeteries. In 2023, tourists threw 1.6 million euros into the Trevi Fountain in Rome. This is a record amount for the landmark. The Trevi Fountain was built between 1732 to 1762 by the architect Nicola Salvi. The landmark is adjacent to the facade of the Palazzo Poli. The money collected in the fountain is directed to charity. As noted by the source, the Roman utility company Asia, which is responsible for the city's water supply, collects the coins in the fountain several times a week. During the peak tourist season, one of Rome's main attractions has to be cleared of coins almost every day. After collection, the money is bagged and sent for sorting. The annual income of the Trevi Fountain exceeds the revenue of several Roman museums. For example, the National Roman Museum earns just over 1 million euros per year. In Italy, when the calendar falls on Friday the 17th, there is an almost atmosphere of uneasiness here. This date holds special significance for us Italians, as many people are convinced that it is an unlucky day, but this belief differs from the beliefs of other cultures who instead associate the number 13 with an unlucky Friday. The superstitious beliefs of Italians have already become legendary, so the centuries-old traditions of a fearful attitude towards the number 17 inches are still alive today. It is impossible to find the 17th row on Italian airlines. An Italian passenger flying on another company's plane will not come anywhere near the 17 inches row. On this day, ships do not go out to sea, important matters are all postponed, and the more impressionable Italians do not leave their homes all day. November 17th is generally considered the most dangerous day of the year. Interestingly, superstitions even bring changes to the country's economy. Developers do not finance the construction of high-rise buildings, because it is difficult to sell living space not only on the 17th floor, but also on the 18th. The famous French car manufacturer Renault faced a complete lack of demand for the R17 model. When the specialists found out the reason, the marketers added another 7 to the name R177, and the sales skyrocketed. But the builders of the high-speed descent route in Italy went the furthest. Instead of the 17th kilometer sign on the road, there is an amazing sign, nameless kilometer. Some researchers claim that this is because the biblical Great Flood began on the 17th day. Others note that a common inscription on the tombs of ancient Romans was an anagram of the Roman numeral for 17, which can be translated as "I lived." This may have also contributed to the dislike of this number. Additionally, the Battle of the Teutoburg Forest, where Germanic tribes defeated the Roman army and completely destroyed the 17th Legion, may have influenced the superstition around this number. After this event, the number 17 began to be considered unlucky and was deliberately skipped when forming new legions. Italian superstitions, however, are usually quite explicable, although they originated in various eras. The Roman Empire, with its pantheon of ancient gods, the lives of Christian saints, and the peculiarities of medieval everyday life have all contributed to this. When visiting Italians, one should never place a hat on the bed. This brings misfortune to the person sleeping there. This is because at one time, doctors who came to attend to seriously ill patients and priests who heard the confessions of those on their deathbeds would remove their hats and, due to lack of time and often space, would leave them right there next to the patient. Since then, a hat on the bed has not portended anything good. Many independent travelers are often surprised when, after traveling through Italy, especially driving a rental car in Rome, they receive fines for entering restricted traffic zones a few months later. The historic center of Rome is closed to traffic from Monday to Friday from 6:30 to 18 o'clock and on Saturdays from 14 o'clock to 18 o'clock. Other areas such as Trastevere are closed on Fridays and Saturdays from 21:30 to 3 o'clock, and Monte and the Testaccio nightclub district are also closed on Fridays and Saturdays from 23:30 to 3 o'clock. Entry is allowed only for taxis, public transportation, and authorized residents, with each vehicle required to be registered and paying between 1,000 and 2,000 euros per year. Flippant Italy may seem like a place where almost anything is allowed, but that is not the case. There are many prohibitions in the country, and for violations of them you will have to pay a fine or even visit a police station. When in another country, you need to know and respect its customs, otherwise you can end up in an awkward situation or even get into serious trouble. On Italian beaches, you cannot smoke. The fine for violation is 300 euros. A similar ban exists in other public places. Before taking a drag of a cigarette, find out if it is allowed. There is another ban related to the beaches. You cannot give a massage to another person there. The local Ministry of Health has recognized such behavior as immoral. Italy takes clothing quite seriously. Many restaurants or cultural institutions simply will not let you in without a tie, suit, or evening dress. There is another strict rule regarding clothing. In cities, you cannot stroll around in a swimsuit. This ban applies even in resort towns. Even if a store is 10 meters from the beach, you need to get dressed to visit it. Otherwise, you will have to pay a fine. In Italian stores, it is not customary to touch the products with your hands. The country has strict sanitary standards, according to which you can only take goods from the shelf using disposable gloves, and the population follows them. There is no fine for the violation, but there is a risk of getting into a scandal or simply being considered an ill-mannered person. Entrust the selection of products to the sellers. In Italy, it is not customary to shortchange or cheat. After leaving the store, the police may check the shopping bag. This is how the local law enforcement fights with shoplifters. Therefore, it is best not to throw away the receipt. Know any more interesting facts about Italy? Share them in the comments.